Take us through what your platform wants to impart to someone listening.
It's about balance. And I think there's a recognition that the genie's out of the bottle. There is technology in the world and there are benefits to it. So we're about bringing life and tech into harmony with the goal of our kids and ourselves living our life to its fullest.
Welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. I'm Farley Boyle.
I'm Darian Boyle.
And I'm Jennifer Brenius.
Collectively, we're two sister-in-laws with our bestie.
We don't just talk, we do it. Day, night, mountain, beach, and city.
Get ready as we bring gratitude and attitude to everything we do.
We jump in head first, unafraid, and we're all in all the time.
We bring it on and get it on each week, diving deep into authentic, unscripted conversations
on just about everything. So
let's get gritty.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Don't wait until tomorrow.
Hi, welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. I'm sitting next to Jen Berenius. We are in Bring It On Studios. We have a fabulous guest for you today, very informative. We have a Got Grit Award winner that you will want to stay tuned to find out who that would be. And we have some all over the map top threes. And we're going to go back and talk about our weekend, even though I'm a little scared to bring up what happened to Jen.
Well, for anyone listening, you've probably been in this situation if your child plays sports. We had a fun trip to the ER after a very contentious fight against Manasquan, which we went for 2 and did not convert. So we lost 6-7, which made the trip to the ER even worse with a loss. But positive attitude is everything. And I was telling Nate, who has a torn MCL, avulsion pulled from the bone, that positivity is everything and healing begins in the brain. So we're trying to keep things very upbeat at my household right now because scheduled surgery is a coming.
Oof.
And I know the Boyles know that.
I don't like to hear about injuries. I don't like to hear about surgeries. And I turfed it with you about 2 weeks ago, walking with our dogs, and I fell on acorns and really did some damage to my shoulder and leg that I've been recuperating from. And then on top of it, I kind of replanned my weekend to be here for the storm that was going to take us all out. And I was going to have to bail out my basement. And I'm happy to say that the big storm did not come. But overall, there was a bit of a wet blanket this weekend.
Yeah, it was a, let's say, a tough weekend all around for a lot of reasons. But thankfully, the weather did overpromise and underdeliver. One of the few categories I like that.
Yes. You know what? I'll take that. That was a huge
For
win.
sure.
That was a win for us.
Oh, there's our win.
We have some happy top threes.
There's some interesting top threes. We're always coming to you with things from all over. So number 3, jumping from speeding boats, leaping from helicopters, saving swimmers all over Italy. It's super Newfie.
Oh, I love a Newfie. And reading this article, it's incredible. These dogs jump out of helicopters, swim through torrential, crazy waves and cold water, and they withstand all kinds of terrible weather.
There's a reason they're man's best friends. And when they're trained properly, they can do a lot of great things. So we're going to have some cool images of these dogs leaping from crazy places and saving people from torrential waters.
Imagine seeing a big Newfie coming for you and then you just holding on to dear life to this big giant bear that is equipped to bring you to safety.
And that reminds me of the St. Bernards that bring you alcohol when you need it, when you're lost in the mountains.
To death.
So, they bring you whatever you need.
I love dogs.
God for the Newfies. Okay, number 2. Philly fan terrible? Don't play the lottery this week if you're from Philly because you lost in baseball, Phillies. You lost in football, Eagles. And you lost in hockey with the Flyers all in one night. I don't think it's happened for 40 years. So bummer.
Ooh.
Sorry, but not sorry because I'm a Giants fan.
My daughter lives with an Eagles fan and she's a Giant fan. And I said, girls, go tailgate, have some fun together, and then go into the game. And Chase said, I am not going to that game to watch the Eagles destroy the Giants. And how fabulous was that turn of events? What a great game.
It. And we needed it here.
We needed it. We really did.
Honest.
Yes.
Yeah, especially because you have some of our best players. We really screwed that up. Go blue.
Yeah.
All right. Number 1, Kohlberg plea. No trial or death penalty will he see, but a 4 times life sentence funded by you and me.
I don't know how I
like
feel
it.
about this. I truly think that what they should do in a case like this, where the death sentence is looming and he killed 4 people, let's do the math. How much is it going to cost taxpayers to keep him 4 life sentences? I think a bullet is less expensive,
Well,
or gas is less expensive.
or can we put some of these people to work?
He's never going to be able to make up for what he did on any level. So I think take him out. You're going to still have to feed him if he's going to be in a work program. Our tax dollars still going to be funding his life. Of course, he hits the plea bargain when he sees that his sister is going to be one of the witnesses that the defense were bringing to the table.
Terrible story, terrible outcome.
They cost us a lot of money.
Well, at some point we might cover the death penalty, but not today. Today we are going to cover something all about balance in life. We're so excited to have our special guest here today. I want to introduce you to Holly Muscatello. She is the founder of the Balance Project and has decided that technology is too much and life requires more of a balance than we're giving our children right now. We're excited to have a conversation with her about her initiative and the impact that she's having not only in Little Silver, but in communities across the country. Welcome, Holly.
Everybody, thank you so
So
much for having
exciting.
me. I'm excited to be here.
It's 18 years that technology has taken over. It really was a groundswell that happened in a generational period. So much of the technology hadn't taken over.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the timeline of things and how it's impacted today. But let's talk about how you started this initiative.
Yeah, sure. It started because I'm a mom of 3 little girls and I am an older millennial, and I love that title. And I'm very typical, reading all the books, following all the blogs, breaking all the cycles, doing all the things to give my kids the best possible life. And I started to learn a bit about the impact of technology on childhood development, and honestly thought about it and reflected back on my own parenting and felt generally okay with how I was handling it so far, but also knowing that there was so much more to come. And I thought I had some time, and then I read The Anxious Generation, and it essentially confirmed all of my intuitions and fears. And then after I read that, really started to dig much more deeply, specifically into this topic. And it's so interconnected and layered. And I realized I needed to do something. I felt in my body that I had to do something. Of course, I was going to continue to be the same parent I had been in my home, but I had the feeling that it just wasn't enough, and that the pressure from the outside and from society as a whole wouldn't make that easier. And so I said, I'm going to try and change it. And I know that might seem crazy to a lot of people, but I can't describe it. I just felt like I had to do it.
Some people roll up their sleeves when they find a void.
Yeah.
They decide that they're going to conquer it.
Yeah.
You have to be wired that way.
Yeah.
Holly and I met through town. And one thing that I will say even is get involved in things, I think is how Holly and I really connected, because she would be one of the few people that was under the age of 65 that would actually show up at some town council meetings and wasn't afraid to raise her hand and ask questions. Yeah. And that curiosity is inspiring. A lot of people lose their questioning skills as they get older, and they go along with it because they're busy and because it's the way it is.
It's easy.
And it's easy to go to get complacent. Holly is obviously not complacent. So talk about your children and their ages and what you see right now in their universe, because they're quite younger than Farley and mine.
Sure. So I have 3 beautiful girls, Molly, Ruby, and Reese. Molly's 7, Ruby's 5, and Reese is 3. I started this about a year ago. So they were 6, 4, and 2. And for them, it was quite limited at the time. They watched TV. They would have the iPad occasionally on the car trip or on a vacation. But we were quite mindful about not giving them, a phone. We didn't give them a phone at dinner. And I guess, more free range parenting than I realized. Now that I know what that is,
Parenting.
relaxed parenting.
That's definitely us.
Yeah, like I didn't even realize that that's what I was until I started to get into the school system and understand other ways. But people would always say, "You're so relaxed," and my husband and I never understood
Because you're
that
let your kids play outside, walk to their friend's
Yeah.
house because you're not setting up a
Yeah.
play date
Yeah, so that
because they can ride their bikes.
right,
places.
exactly. So the combination of understanding that all of that was connected and it's all important, that is what made me realize I need to help other people relax a little bit more and give their kids permission to have those independent experiences. And I've never been afraid to go against the status quo or, the societal norm. And so I felt like I could be someone who took the first step to make it easier for other people. And that's what inspired us to start something. And it wasn't just me. My husband has been involved from the beginning. I had a very core group of parents involved from the beginning, but the amazing part about all of it is it just kind of happened. The universe has been unfolding things and we've just been taking one step at a time.
It's so needed. I feel like when we had our little people, we were stressed about TV time and baby Einstein and
Sensory overload.
sensory overload.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
That was our kids' generation. It was like, what are you putting them in front of that they're consuming, and are they going to get overwhelmed?
Yeah.
I never had an iPad for my kids.
Well, to our earlier point, this is where we noticed that the groundswell of technology has exploded. When Jack, my youngest, was 7 years old, I got my first smartphone because of sports. They sucked us into it. You would need to be someplace. Oh, no, they sent you an email and you already got the place because they waited until the absolute last second to send the email. If you had a smartphone, then you would have known. And I'm piling little people in a car to get them to a practice that now is canceled. So yes, that phone's going to make my life so much more convenient.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why I got my first smartphone. He was born in 1999. So that would have been like 2007.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
think about that as the way I had to have raised my kids. And you can see how we've not been in control since the inception of this nefarious technology.
Think about from our parents' generation to ours. I remember thinking I'm never going to be my mom because she doesn't even know how to use the DVR or any technology. And how lucky was she? And now here we are. I keep saying to Jen, I'm so happy that we're doing a podcast because it's keeping us in this space that we don't want to be consumed by, but we don't want to get left in the dust either because how are we going to relate to our kids? So it's like a double-edged sword, how much is too much? And what do you choose to consume? But yet we're utilizing the culprits. And they're keeping a phone in our hands. Because of COVID, you go to a restaurant, you have to scan a menu and airports, and they're making us use these things.
And that's what I love about your initiative, Holly, the Balance Project. It's not saying that technology doesn't have a place in our society. It's choosing to incorporate it into the right places within our development of children, our usage in schools, even in our workplace. It's also changed where a lot of companies are going to 2 phones. You have a work phone and a personal phone, and you can see that
boundaries.
Trying to figure out more ways to manage it on some levels and control it on other levels. I guess my question to you is, how do you see this extrapolating out? So in all fairness, your kids are real young. So you have a luxury at this moment 100%. Where you can say, I'm still in charge. But it does get to a point where you're at the mercy of what the school's policies are. What are you guys doing to mitigate that?
Yes, I feel super lucky. And literally my friends and I say this all the time. We feel like we hit the jackpot on the timing of all of this because from our childhood, we had a completely analog childhood up until I was years old. And then that's when I started to get on AOL Instant Messenger, right? And so I had that analog childhood and know what that was like. And I can appreciate what that did for me. And when I think back, I grew up at my grandparents' house, which was on the farm that she grew up on, which was 4 acres of land next to a field, across from a field, next to another field. And all I did was play outside and look at the clouds. And I remember laying and looking at the clouds. And I do that with my kids now. I'll go outside and let's just lay and look at the clouds. And there was this one day, we do our peach in our pit. What was your peach of the day? What was your pit of the day? And my daughter said, looking at the clouds with you. So I was reminded how important those simple moments are. And I feel lucky because we had that experience. We were also early adopters to digital life, right? I got on Facebook when you had to have a college email address. So very early adopter to digital technology, use it for my work and enjoy it. But when it comes to our kids,
You're defensive driving.
we're
That's
defensive
what I
driving.
feel like it is. You
Yes.
you see what's coming around the corner.
Yes.
And you are being proactive now so that by the time you're rounding that
Yes.
corner, there's something in place. There's a safety net that's going to
Correct.
catch all these kids.
And I feel for the parents who are a few years
Ahead
beyond
of you.
me because they didn't know. And it only has started to become a national conversation in the past few months. Even a year ago when I started this, it was not as widespread as it is now. Years
But
before
you
that,
said they didn't know. I completely disagree with you on
Okay.
that. I
Okay.
feel like if we're talking about the tech companies, they know.
I'm talking about parents.
Yeah,
was talking
I feel like we as consumers, as parents, as American citizens, we are being sold down the river because it's always our problem. We talk about it on our show with so many aspects of food and healthcare and aging. And it's always like, well, you need to do a better job at parenting your child if they have an addictive problem. Now, meanwhile, they have made this tech highly addictive.
Yeah.
They don't even let their own
Intentionally.
kids utilize
that's-
it.
yeah.
And they have boundaries set up for
Yeah.
their own families.
Well, and
They know exactly what they're doing.
that's where I think we have the benefit of this conversation being made mainstream, and parents that were in your shoes and a lot of them that were in between, like all those kids in between our kids' ages, there wasn't that mainstream support against it. And there was also this FOMO mentality, right? We see it in our schools with ed tech, and we see it with parents not wanting their kids to be left out. And so now we know, and we know too much. And that is where we begin the conversation. And that's exactly where we started. So much changed in such a short amount of time. And now we know, and we have to swing it back to the middle.
I remember the first time that I had an uh-oh moment, and it was with our children. It was with Kyle and Abby. And we had just gotten those fighting hamsters. I can't remember what they were, but we were told that if they were male and female, it would work. But if there were two males in a cage, one would kill the other. So Abby and Kyle were very into it, and we were laying out the cage and trying to understand, do we have a male and a female? How can we determine which one is which? And I said, why don't you guys
Research. And that's how we also were like,
I can't remember
hoodwinked.
the name of what type of hamster, gerbil, whatever it was. But I said, just go type, how can we determine boy or girl? Ooh. All of a sudden they came running back in and they were like,
oh my God.
and I said, what? And they're like,
we don't even know
we
we
don't
saw.
know what we just saw. And I
my
went
God.
in and it was one little typo where it's female or male or sex. Wham.
Oh my gosh.
It was
Yep.
a whole world that they were exposed to.
Yes.
I used to always say, if you're going to
Yes.
give your child a phone at a young age, then you might as well just let them drive a car.
Yeah.
Because it's a piece of machinery that can get you anywhere in a split second, and they're exposed to anything and everything. And
You can't undo it once they are.
No, you
No.
can't.
Well,
And-
and we're not undoing the technology piece of it. We
Yeah.
know that. Take us through what your platform wants to impart to someone listening.
It's about balance. And I think there's a recognition that the genie's out of the bottle. There is technology in the world and there are benefits to it. So we're about bringing life and tech into harmony with the goal of our kids and ourselves living our life to its fullest. One of the things that really stuck out about the numbers and the research, and when you see how much time we're all spending on our screens every day, the opportunity of cost of that is huge in terms of life experience, creativity, and other things that you can be doing that takes up your time versus mindlessly scrolling. And I still do it, right? I'm not perfect. And I think that's why we have what we call our community values and intentions, which is about awareness and the acknowledgement that this is something we should be paying attention to, noticing and trying to make small shifts along the way as individuals. And then as communities for our kids, we're in a time where it has to be collective action. It has to be a group because the pressure is just too strong. And it's so much easier if your kid doesn't feel like they're doing it alone. So we're really trying to make it so that nobody has to do this alone.
I read your 25% stat.
Yes.
Will you share that with us?
Yeah, of course. So there's some studies. It's very famously spoken about in The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell that 25% of a group is essentially when you start to see a cultural shift. And so our goal in every community is to have 25% of the group on board with our mission and approach. Because we believe once 25% of people are doing something, it will start to shift the culture. So
it's obtainable.
It's obtainable.
It is.
We don't have to get everyone, but once there's enough people talking about it and doing it, you start to think, oh, maybe I should be thinking about this too.
When I started Chase for Light, I was trying to figure out how to make CPR and the Heimlich, Heimlich maneuver a hot topic. So my advice would be making it the cool club and trying to finesse how you can make a kid want to be a part of something. I feel like if you guys can figure out a way for that 25% to be the cool kids.
Yeah.
And to make it, something that people want to be a part of because, they're doing it. Go after some of those alphas in the classes and say, hey, listen, you could be a real role model. And if you come on board, think about all the other kids that are going to come on board. And maybe there's some type of award or recognition that you could give to try to make it a coveted award.
Yeah.
And make people want to be a part of the bandwagon.
Yeah. It's really interesting you say that. And we inherently like to have fun. I like to have a good time. And I also don't have a lot of time. And so part of how we talk to our community leads across the country is to infuse fun into everything that we do. We try to have an event at a brewery, or we try to have something exciting happening. When we have events for kids, we had an ice cream truck. So we are trying to make it not all doom and gloom and not all bad, right? And we try to show the positive side, what's possible, and we try to make it fun along the way. We are actually having a brainstorm tonight on high schools. We started with kids who are in elementary school, and then we moved up into middle school. And now we're really looking to unpack how to support the high school students. And those who I have spoken to already have started to talk about making it a club.
Give them hours, something that is going to translate elsewhere.
Exactly.
Right.
And so we're working through some of those ideas, which we're really excited about. And then another fun one that happened organically is we have a realtor who's local, who's starting to include Balance Project community in her listings.
Stacey Bender, shout out to Stace.
Hi, Stace.
That's awesome.
So it's a fascinating experience to see how this can manifest in so many ways. And I totally agree. I think making it something people want to do versus not is what we're hoping to achieve.
The grassroots aspect of anything is important. But you've had some interesting meetings with our political leaders, correct?
Yes.
So what level are we impressing some of this importance and change and policy? And holding these tech companies accountable? What are we doing there?
When I decided, where am I focusing my energy in this space? There's a lot of groups that are focusing specifically on advocacy and policy. And that wasn't necessarily my background or my strong suit. So I chose to focus on community because that's where I felt like I could add value. That said, we always talk about what are we doing beyond our schools in our communities and that policy. So in New Jersey, we're talking with the governor's office, with the Speaker of the Assembly, and the Education Committee. So we will be working with them throughout the rest of this current term to hopefully pass the bell-to-bell policy for schools. So no phones in schools, bell-to-bell.
That happened in New York State.
New York, it's 38 states.
Yep.
New Jersey's one of the last to do it. So we're hoping to get that over the finish line before Governor Murphy leaves office. But we quickly highlighted some of the other challenges that we're experiencing in terms of ed tech in schools, and also childhood independence laws that are very vague right now, which give parents pause in terms of letting their kids have that independence we believe is so critical. And we put on their radar the community infrastructure, green space, more flashing lights and crosswalks and things like that. So the bell to bell is our first step on the journey, and then we're quickly moving to those others. We also had a call last week with a nonprofit that works with governors across the country to do model policy. And we're going to be working with them as well to influence their model policy, which would then be given to every speaker of every state or every governor. I'm not sure which one it is. So we're really excited about that opportunity as well.
Fine.
Awesome.
What are your 4 pillars?
Well, yeah. So our process, I work by day in advertising. I've been in marketing and advertising my entire career. And when I understood the challenge, right, as a marketing problem, how do we, educate people on something that they're not paying attention to or don't want to pay attention to? How do we get them to change their behavior and admit that they need to make changes? So when we designed our approach, it was rooted in that behavior change philosophy and cause marketing, social proof marketing. So our 4 phases are invite, excite, unite, and activate. The first one is as simple as starting the conversation and welcoming people. And that's our front door. That's the Balance Project. We're already welcoming you in because who can argue with needing a better balance in some form or fashion, right? So we're not dictating exactly what that balance is. We're just kind of acknowledging that
Inclusivity.
it's needed. Yes. So we want everyone to be a part of the conversation. So that's that invite phase. And we have, tools for our community leads that help them. Like, here's a simple text message to people, here's a simple text message to your class, your class chat, or here's an email to your administration. So we try to give them all the tools and make it as easy as possible for them to start the conversation. Then we move into excite, which instead of painting this as doom and gloom, painting as what's possible and what's on the other side if we do tackle this together. And so we talk about what does harmony look like and how can we get there and what are the things our kids will get back and we'll get back as humans.
My gosh, they'll be able to communicate.
Yeah, seriously.
They don't talk.
Yeah.
These kids get in a room and they get on their devices and it's a lost art, like home ec.
Yes.
You learn how to cook. And so we'll have to send our kids to school to learn how to communicate.
Yeah, it's true.
And they don't date. And there's a lot of problems that we see at the older level.
Yeah. Well, I just saw Wall High School made national news because they canceled their homecoming because no one wanted to go.
That is so sad.
So terrible. That was the best thing ever.
It's so devastating. Yeah. I think about when I had little people and a lot of times we were together and it was fun to go to a restaurant and play the grocery store game, A to Z, and work on their memory or I Spy or old fashioned, old school ways to be involved and to be present with your kids and to participate.
Yes.
I love your box. I saw your box and what comes in it is like cars and crayons and things like that, which I think is so smart because I used to pack up a bag and I had my kids' favorite things in it so that they could entertain themselves. Yeah. I was never giving them a device. It was always about coloring. And as a kid, one of the exercises, my mom was a teacher and my aunt was a teacher, and it would be in the back of a car or wherever. Okay, draw an aardvark anteater elephant. And I'd have to try to come up with what that would look like in my brain and the new name. And it's like those things for me, I love imagination and laying on your back and looking at clouds. I took my kids on fairy hunts. My kids today, they still believe in fairies.
And I was the parent who let their kids run out into the woods, and I had other parents and neighbors call and say, who's watching your kids? And they were young and they were watching one another. Right. So I think that societally has to shift where and if I'm a kid riding their bike inappropriately, you roll down the window and you don't report them.
Correct.
You speak to them.
Yeah,
you have a community and a conversation with people about the manner in which we operate in society.
Yes.
And that is a part of the problem. It's sad when you go to dinner and you see people that their kids are plugged in. And we've talked about this on our tech episode, and they're on their iPad and their earplugs, they're plugged in. And I'm sure mom and dad are tired from a long day at work.
Yeah.
But that is not going to reduce stress. It's going to create another problem on the other end. And we're already seeing this. And I would love your take on the AI piece.
Yeah.
We are looking at these organizations who are supposed to self-regulate social media, tech, and we're still allowing these same tech companies to say, we're going to solve all life problems with AI. And yet we're already seeing the impact of AI on the MRI scans of children, where the kids that use ChatGPT and these AI techs, the pulses in their brain go from firing up huge to this big because you're not using critical thinking, you're not using imagination, you're not using any reasoning or human skills. And I would implore for anyone out there who doesn't know about the Balance Project to get involved, because I think that this is the tip of the iceberg. And yes, it's going to get worse before it gets better if we don't start to take back some of these things.
It's true. And I think your point about community support, that's one of our core values. How do we create a community culture where we are going back to that village mentality and assuming the best intent and looking after each other and supporting each other and giving our kids other adults that they can trust and feel comfortable with. So that's also a part of it. And people ask me, what exactly do you do? It's kind of all over the place, but it's all interconnected. And it's all important. I think that's critical. And then
You're giving kids their childhood back.
yeah, kind of.
They gaming and
Right.
being on a device is not the way we grew up.
Yeah.
And I am thankful for the way that I was raised,
Yeah.
and the fact that my mom and dad would say, beat it and come back before the sun's down. And that was my norm. It was exciting. And I had to think when I got myself into a precarious situation, and I had to use reasoning, and I had to solve my own issues. And Google, I'm appreciative of Google, but think about when we didn't know how to figure out something, we had to go to a thesaurus or encyclopedia, or we had to go to the library, or we had to talk to an adult and ask a question, instead of having this instant gratification answer that pops up that we can't even fact check to see if it's correct anymore.
And a lot of times it's not even fact.
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought up a couple of good things there, that going back to Jen, what you were saying too about AI and the brain waves and all of that. I do think it's the tip of the iceberg. I do think there's some positives. I do think our kids need to know how to use it. However, I think we can't overlook those foundational skills. And again, I'm not saying we have to go back to 1992, 1982, or 1972, but I do think we need to hold on to what's important and make sure we're still giving our kids those foundational building blocks, because the only reason why AI can help me now is because I have those foundational skills.
Correct.
If I didn't have those to begin with, how would I question if it was giving me the right answer, and how would I push back on it? So I think we need to get them off their devices, get them into the real world so they get those experiences, give them that, release the anxiety from our anxious parenting, and let them go out into the world. We always talk about struggles with a small s, like your bike chain breaks, or you get lost, or you get stung by a bee, right? We need them to have those struggles with a small s so that they can gain those critical skills, so that they can engage with technology in an appropriate way.
Now, would you be an advocate for age restriction, like a lot of countries are doing with social media on tech completely? Do you think the schools are incorporating too much tech too early?
It's so interesting because this is not my background at all. I'm just a mom.
You're going to become an expert.
Mom on a mission. I'm learning so much about, if there aren't strict and hard and fast rules, people just don't always do the right thing. And I'm seeing that even in our schools. I had a conversation today with an educator who pointed out to me that the state removed the requirement to have a technology plan. So everyone just stopped doing a technology plan. And then I was talking to a couple of parents who are in this space and asking them, how is this handled for you? And the reality is it's different across the board. Everyone's getting a different experience. If you have a superintendent or a board that is very passionate about this, you're doing one thing. If you have a school that's not, you have another experience. And so I think we need some guidance, because it's the wild, wild west right now.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I'm not really a believer in strict rules like that. But in this case, I think we need it.
Well, because it's not rule by sake of needing rules. It's a rules of engagement. It's like playing a game, let's be honest. And if you don't know what the goal is, right? If you aren't understanding, like, what are we trying to accomplish here? How are we going to get there? And the other problem that I see, a lot of these tech companies are funding things in these lower income districts. And these tech devices become babysitters.
Right.
They become a parent. They become another lifeline. They become their social. Because in some communities, they don't have the luxury of mom or dad or grandma or somebody home to let them run and play in the yard. I think we need to get a handle on it so that we can level the playing field.
Yeah. And I do think like that this is emerging as another divide between the haves and the have-nots. And I think that requires some really deep thinking. And I hope to be able to remain kind and collaborative and bringing people on the journey and articulating the problem and finding the solution together. And in some places that's embraced, and others it's not. I think there's a desire to stay with what you have because that's what you did and you thought it was right at the time. But part of our other mantra is this is changing so quickly, none of us can keep up with it. And if you claim to be on top of it, you can't be, because by the time you said that statement, you're already not on top of it. I think like we all have to kind of commit to the cause as an evolving topic that requires constant attention. That's
and think
just
about
a
the brain
norm.
power. If you
Yes.
have a collaborative group, you've got 50 brains that
Yeah.
are all chugging away at the same
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
And that is how we get things accomplished.
Yes.
So for the mom, dad, or caretaker at home, what would be your key takeaways for how they can be better at
Balance.
supporting the balance?
Start with yourself. I think the first step is awareness. It's very simple. As soon as we started having this conversation in our home and then in our community, things started to change immediately. Just having awareness and recognition. I think that is step one.
Monkey see, monkey do. I get guilty thinking if I'm on my device and they're looking at me, or I'm not
100%.
present and I'm having a conversation and I'm over here, they're going to replicate what they're seeing.
That's now when you think about babies, that's another area that I need 30 more hours in the day so I can go to that, because people think this is a problem when they're 13, but the reality is 40% of 2-year-olds have their own iPad, and all these parents are on the device, and these kids are looking at you to learn how to react and learn emotion. So again, the effects of this are so far reaching.
So true. I bought my kids fake cell phones when they were little.
Yeah.
I put them in a purse because they
Yes.
wanted to have everything I have. They
Yes.
want to be like us.
Yeah. Awareness is number one. Number two is modeling. So like you said, pick a couple times during the day to start small, like phone-free meals. We have a box in our house where we put the phone. There is new research coming out talking about the pull of the phone, even if you're not on it, but when it's next to you or in your field of vision. I'll go downstairs and play in the basement with my kids, and I'll keep the phone inside. We've started to go for ice cream without bringing our phones. Give yourself little challenges to model that behavior and give yourself a brain break.
Because everything's a photo op too, and your phone is a
My
freaking
problem.
camera.
That's
I'm
what
a-
they've
I'm
done.
a self-proclaimed
Yeah, it's
They've done
brilliant
photo
marketing.
addict, and I
That's-
always have been. And
Same.
now I'm working through that, and I noticed I've taken less photos and I've been more present, but it's still, that's my biggest
Look at what
challenge.
Snapchat did. It's the biggest loss of time in all of our kids' lives.
Yeah.
Taking a stupid picture of themselves and keeping their Snapchat streak. They take 650 selfies a day to keep it going. It's tier marketing that the tech people know the hook and grab and what they've done
For
to
sure.
us.
So first is self-reflection, second is modeling, third is research, because everybody's going to gravitate to a different piece that is most impactful or important to them. And once you're enlightened, you can't look back. And that will naturally help you to change your behavior because you will be aware. So you can follow us on Instagram. Ironically, we try to post once or twice a day. We post different facets so you can get that full perspective.
We're gearing
together.
to an adult crowd. So it's
Yeah.
a different.
It's also where we need to adjust our behavior, where I don't have to be a slave to my phone. At 5 o'clock, I'm going to check to see what my
Yeah.
updates were today. And I'm going to spend 15 minutes
Yeah.
on my post. And that's all I'm going to do,
Yeah.
and set some boundaries for ourselves,
Correct.
because we are part of the problem too.
Yeah.
How many times do you go to lunch with somebody and their phone is sitting next to them the entire
Yes.
time?
Yep.
Like the little things,
Little
they
things.
do add up and make an impact. And
Yeah.
my phone's sitting here on my lap. It's ever present part of your person
Yeah.
anymore. And
Stinks.
letting that go is incredibly difficult.
And even sleeping with your phone outside of the room, buying an alarm clock. These are all so basic. Like,
Yeah.
don't scroll while you poop, right?
I love that you said some of my best ideas come when I'm taking a shower,
Yes.
because you don't have
Yes.
your phone
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
there with you. It's so true.
Yeah.
It is very commonsensical. And the KISS theory, keep it simple, stupid.
Yes.
It works.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do, is just kind of go back in time and
Yeah.
revisit the
Yeah.
early days.
I think we can do a lot of amazing grassroots things, but
There's got to be
if
accountability.
there's no
It's not
accountability,
just our fault because the kids these
Totally.
devices and we're not the ones that created it. And
No.
it starts at a very high level and it trickles all the
It
way
does.
down, and we're feeling it the most.
Yeah. If you want to get more involved, you can start a community. There might already be one. There's over 100 across the country now, which is insane.
amazing.
Share.
So it's at thebalanceproject.life, and our Instagram is thebalanceproject_HQ. We're starting to have communities with their own. We have 100 communities. I don't know how many states. In the last time it was over 30. And we also
And
have
India.
a community in India starting up in
Amazing.
Bangalore. Yeah. So it's crazy, wonderful. And we're just getting started, and there's so much work to be done. We're also looking for advisors. We're looking for donors. We're looking for
Anybody that's passionate
volunteer-
about their kids.
Yes.
This is something that pulls at all of our heartstrings. Everybody could be involved.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're in the cool group, you're involved.
totally.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
well,
much for your
yes.
initiative.
Thank you. Thank you.
It
for
takes
having me.
one person to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for taking your inspiration and putting it into practical movement that impacts everyday lives.
be the
Thank
change.
you.
We're looking at it right
Oh,
here.
Thanks, guys.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Getting jiggy with it.
And our Got Grit Award winner this week, Time Magazine had its first ever Girls of the Year edition, and Rebecca Young was featured on the cover of this magazine for the design of a solar power blanket with the homeless community in mind. She designed and sketched a perfectly simple render that was brought to fruition by a group of scientists that came up with the first prototype, which included a solar panel and a battery pack. How simple is that? No one ever thought about it, and she was the first one to make this a reality. And they are being used all over Glasgow, Scotland, which is where she's from. So, Rebecca Young, we are really proud of you.
Amazing. And we hope they can replicate this across cold climates all over the world because the homeless population need that little bit of warmth.
It's called an SPHB, which is a solar power heated blanket, and it is brilliantly simple. Sometimes some of the best ideas are simple.
Yes, they are.
And that brings us to a wonderful lyric that is hopefully going to inspire and empower you today. And Jen, take it away.
Right. Do you remember when you looked in the water and saw your reflection, the embers? They drew out a map and they showed you direction to sender. Far in the east, where your heart is at peace when you enter. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. A reminder.
A reminder? Who sang this?
Trevor Hall.
You played him for me recently.
I love him. I think Spotify actually introduced me to him, which is
He opened for Michael Franti, right? Yeah.
Opened for Michael Franti. He's been at some interesting concerts, and he's a cool young artist that has deep rooted history in Hinduism and all good things of being connected with the universe. So we love that. And we love for you to continue to be connected to your universe of people and sharing whatever you can, the energy of this podcast, the intention of this podcast, maybe this podcast itself, it doesn't matter. What we really want you to do, like the Balance Project did today, is find your community, create conversations, get off of your tech, get back into the table, have a nice meal with your family.
Know that you can make a difference. It all starts with just one person. And if we all decide to make a difference, imagine 25% rule that she covered today. We can make change.
So let's go ahead and do that.
Hit subscribe, please. That'll help
Pay it
change our
forward.
numbers too.
Pay it forward. Hey, again, if you want to engage us and you have an idea for a show, we're always looking for you to give us some feedback. So that's another way you can help us. Conversations are two ways, and we'd love to hear from you. So thank you.
If you
so
want to
much.
nominate a Got Grit Award winner, we'd love to hear it. We are all about content, ideas, anything that you want to bring to the table. Thank you so much.
So much. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Girls Gone Gritty.
You can check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
If this episode hits home, share it with someone who needs to get gritty.
The 3 Gs. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.